Okay. Jump on this live feed here. Sounds like audio is good. We're up and running. All right. I'm Alan Holt, one of the 4 meteorologists we have on staff here at KIII TV. Heat's been real hot, even by our standards here in the coastal bend. And we're going to have another pair of extremely, even by our standards, hot days here. Temperatures over 100 degrees. So I'm going to try to let the audience build up here. Just get people on before we really start talking about all this. Pull up the graphics. We've implemented, around the time Beryl came through here, we started doing these weather impact alert days, part of our new weather branding here with Channel 3. And as we start talking about these days, when you hear a weather impact alert day from us, what that in essence means is that we're seeing something with that day's weather that it may be a little bit out of the ordinary, or it's more impactful than normal. And we just want to bring extra attention and detail to the hazard or whatever is triggering that weather impact alert day. In this case, it's the 100 degree plus temperatures in Corpus Christi, the air temperatures that we've had so far this week. We talked about doing this on Friday. We put this out, weather impact alert days. It was for Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. Ends up, it should have been Monday, and now we've extended it to Thursday too. But the criteria for this specific weather impact alert day tomorrow and Thursday is the 100 degree forecast high or greater in Corpus Christi. That's one of our criteria that we sat down as a team and defined as a higher impact event for this area. So, drinking water, practicing heat safety, getting into the shade, getting into the AC, taking frequent breaks, all of these things you need to be doing. Checking on neighbors, the pets, you don't want to be leaving them outside either. Kids playing outside. Just make sure people have the access to breaks and water. And just, be aware that the heat is high. Heat is the #1 weather-related killer when it comes to how people die when it's from a weather-induced situation. So, heat, we're used to it, but even still here, it can be, it can take its toll. So tomorrow, preemptively, we've already got the heat warning, excessive heat warning, up and posted for most of the area. Duval County is under a heat advisory, and the southern 3 counties of our viewing area, Jim Hogg, Brooks, and Kennedy counties, those fall under the jurisdiction of the Brownsville National Weather Service. So while those people, if you're watching, can get us, the Weather Service office that those counties are in are the Brownsville office. So, they're not in these warned areas according to their office. That's not to say it's not going to be hot. It certainly will be hot throughout the region. Today, the hottest day of 2024 so far hit 102. That was our forecast high from yesterday for today. New record high, long-standing 1948 100 degree day that year. That record is now gone, and the new one will say 2024 102 on August the 20th. We're still running a surplus on the year-to-date rainfall. July, we had a bunch of rain, and even in June with these tropical systems, Alberto delivering some, and then July, we just, we happened to cash in on a week's worth of rain in July. And we haven't really had any since then. So it's been almost a month since any measurable widespread rain has come back to Corpus Christi. Watershed at 25% right now. So 100-degree days, just a way of comparing this year to last year. We're nowhere close to what we saw last year at this time. We were at 35 times on the count of days where we had gotten 100 degrees or better on the temperature. This year, 6, which isn't low. A lot of times we don't get to 100 at all. I'm gonna have to put a stat sheet together on that. But 100 isn't that common in Corpus Christi. It was last year. It was in 2012, 28 days I think it was in that year. But aside from those 2 years, there haven't been many that you get double-digit 100-degree days. So, you know, we've got 1 or 2 more ahead of us just this week. So that number is going to grow. We're not going to get up to 2023 level. 42 times it happened in 2023. We're not going to get there, you know, but we do have some pretty good heat in the forecast heading into the next several days. Overnight, not a ton of relief in this department. We're going to be in the upper 70s by tomorrow morning, middle to upper 70s, a calm breeze, you know, kind of business as usual there. Highs, these are the temperatures, the air temperatures tomorrow. You know, 101 in town, get to Highway 77, you're looking at 100 to 105. Then west of Highway 77, you know, you're looking at 104 to 107. That's the heat air temperature, not the heat index. That's the air temperature for tomorrow. So very hot. That's why we've got the weather impact alert day. Then you tack on that humidity, and pretty much across the board, with the exception being the immediate coast, the beach, it's 110 to 115. And some of these spots could get, you know, above 115. And that's why that excessive heat warning is already up and posted for tomorrow. So, you know, it's going to be hot. It'll be very similar to the way today was. And heat safety is top of mind. This graphic we show every year. We updated it this year, gave it the new look with our branding. But, you know, it's inside of a car, and whether the temperature's 80, 90, or 100 degrees outside, if, you know, an elderly person, a child, a pet is left in a car for an hour or longer, I mean, you look at the temperature inside the car, you're talking 123, 133, 140 to 150 in an hour's time. You know, it takes 10 minutes to get up to 120 when it's a day like today, 100 degrees outside. So, you know, just be mindful, be aware of your surroundings, employ some sense when you're out and about. You know, it's hot. It's hot. And when you're not, you know, careful with the heat, it can be dangerous, it can be hazardous. So, just heat safety, so we want to stress here. Texas is quiet right now, and you know, you got to go up to the panhandle to find just a little sprinkle of rain. Big trough in the eastern half of the country. It's been really rainy in the northeast. They're setting record rainfall totals over the last, you know, 5 or 6 days up there. Big ridge of high pressure over us, and that ridge is what's driving the heat way up. So when it's in a position like it is right now with the high to the northwest of here over West Texas, kind of New Mexico, the panhandle of Texas, that's the sweet spot for the excessive heat. That's where it was last year for the majority of summer. We get this drier northerly flow up high in the atmosphere. We're looking 20,000 feet up right here, by the way. This isn't surface level, so we're looking at what's going on up top to see all these things. But when that upper level high is there and it's strong, the heat, it comes here, and the rain doesn't. So that's the setup for was today into tomorrow and into Thursday. We're going to stay hot and rain free. So next 2 days, weather impact alert days for air temperatures at or above 100 in Corpus Christi. By the weekend, this thing moves north. It moves toward the Central Plains, and this position gets us out from underneath the hottest part of that high pressure influence. So high temperatures will drop back down to seasonal average, middle 90s, not lower 100s because of that movement in the high pressure. And the trough in the east we were just mentioning, that trough is going to spit out some upper level energy in the deep south over the weekend. And by Sunday, that piece of energy will be in the northern Gulf of Mexico. And I will say, if this had a lot more time to develop, you know, we'd be maybe a little bit more, you know, more talkative about it or more concerned about it, trying to develop into something, you know, tropical in nature, where you see that, remember, we're talking 20,000 feet up, where you see that energy start to translate down to the surface. And I don't think we're there with this one. The energy does try to start to, you know, to translate down through the atmosphere as it approaches the Texas Gulf Coast early next week. But I don't think that there's enough time between Sunday and Tuesday for this to organize into anything resembling a tropical organized system. The Hurricane Center is not flagging anything over the next 7 days, and this feature will have already moved into Texas over the next 7 days. This is Tuesday, next Tuesday at 5. Also, the moisture looks fairly limited with it, meaning, you know, you need a couple of things for rain, right? You need vertical motion and you need moisture at the most basic level, and you need maybe a trigger, like a front or something like that. But this feature, yeah, it's there, but it's just, it doesn't look like anything to worry about. So it may yield a little bit of rain late Sunday into early next week. We've got widely scattered stuff in our forecast. You know, that may go up or down just depending on how this thing evolves. But right now, you know, I don't think this is any type of huge speed bump or hurdle to get through early next week. The temperatures do start to go down a little bit, not because of a front, but because of that high pressure moving to the north. So that gives us, you know, 5 degrees or so less heat, mid 90s, not record highs. You know, the next 2 days, we're going to be close to record levels. Record tomorrow's 100. We've got a forecast of 101. And then flip those numbers for Thursday. The record high is 101, and the forecast high right now is 100. So, you know, after Thursday, I think we kind of settle back into that seasonal average mode of middle 90s into the late parts of August. No areas of interest in the tropics over the next 7 days. Next named storm going to be Francine. But the tropics remain quiet. Ernesto sent increased wave activity to the East Coast. It hit Bermuda, but there's still a lot of dust in the Atlantic basin, and tropical waves, if you're familiar with the Eastern Atlantic, the little dots over there just to the west of Africa, those are the Cape Verde Islands, and a lot of the waves coming off are passing near there or north of there, and that isn't a very favorable spot for those systems to organize. So that's kind of one of the reasons it's been a little bit quieter heading into the peak of hurricane season, and the other is the dust. There's a lot of dust out there. So just a little thing about the tropics, right? The seasonal forecast, it's all about storm count, right? We're talking 20, 25 named storms. And that's how we define, right, if a season is active. So a couple of points to make on this. One is the number of storms that a season yields, in my opinion, doesn't make it active or inactive for a specific location. You know, I feel like we've already had a pretty active season with the Alberto rains and then the threat from Beryl. We've only had 5 named storms so far this season, but to me, that has felt very active. So it's about that perspective of how the storms, affect certain areas. That being said, I am surprised that we've only got 5 named storms so far through August the 20th. That number is a little bit above average. Typically, we've got 4 named storms. What's not average about this tropical season to date is the strength of the storms that have happened already. 3 hurricanes, 2 of them hitting the U.S., and one of them was a major hurricane, a KIII, the earliest on record. That was Beryl. That's not normal, right? So another way of looking at a tropical season and its what it's doing compared to average is how much energy these things are producing. It's a metric called ACE, accumulated cyclone energy. And this year, we're right now to date comparable to about September the 8th, September the 9th. So we're ahead by a lot in that metric of measuring how much energy these storms are putting out. So, you could have a season where you have 15 named storms to this point, and maybe they're all short-lived tropical storms. Would that be active, or would 5 named storms with 2 hurricanes hitting the U.S. and one of them a major hurricane at one point in time having already happened? So, it's kind of in the frame of how you look at it when we're describing active versus inactive. All of that being said, there's no threat right now. Peak season is September the 10th, and there will be a flurry of activity. I am confident that we will see much more activity in the Atlantic basin. The neutral to slightly La Nina leaning ENSO, the Atlantic being warm, the Caribbean is bathwater right now. Something is going to have to give in the tropics eventually. Tomorrow, back on track. Sorry for the 5-minute digression. It's almost 9:40 on the 20th of August. If you're watching, one of the 100 people that are on here, hey, thank you. Thank you for hanging out. Tomorrow, 101, the forecast high temperature. That would be a record high for the date. Mainly sunny, southerly breeze, 5 to 15 miles per hour. Weather impact alert day for the 100-degree forecast high temperature. This is really an interesting way of looking at the heat tomorrow, the hour-by-hour heat index, because by 10 o'clock in the morning, we're looking at 100 degrees or plus on the heat index, and I don't think that goes down to below 100 till after sundown. So we're looking at 10, 11 hours of 100-degree heat index values tomorrow, as high as 112 in the Corpus Christi area. Today was 117. That was a reading from the Weather Service. I'm not that high on it. I think, I just don't see it getting that high. If it does, it does. We've got the weather impact alert days posted, but it's going to be very hot. And I think the bigger thing about tomorrow is that the air temperature is going to be at, if not slightly above, 100. So this is also an interesting little thing here. It's something called albedo, and what this word means is the amount of solar radiation that an object, a surface, a colored surface, reflects back into the atmosphere. So Dark colors absorb more heat than lighter colors. So a road, an asphalt road, you're looking at a 4%, an albedo of 0.04. So 4% of solar radiation will get reflected. It's going to absorb a lot of heat. Sand, the beach, 40% going to get reflected back up into the atmosphere. That means it's going to absorb 60%. So the beach, right? Sand, it's hot. When you walk on it, it's tan. Snow, it's cold when you talk. I'm just kidding. That's not what we're talking about. But snow reflects 85% of incoming solar radiation. So snow is going to be a lot more reflective, as is and are white surfaces. So when you're like at a pool, right, and the ground around it is all white, that's by design because it reflects heat more efficiently than a dark surface around the pool. I'm saying that to say, hey, we're white. We're a light color. It's not going to make it cool outside, but it does help just a little bit. A little bit can go a long way when you're talking about heat and being outside for long periods of time. So the next 2 days are going to be weather impact alert days for triple-digit air temperatures. Near record heat Wednesday, Thursday, 97 Friday. That's when that high starts to move, the upper level high starts to move back to the north. This now is another thing that is starting to gain some traction. The Weather Service is talking about this. UIL with sports and practices, they're talking about this. It's a metric they use to determine whether or not it's safe to be outside practicing in the heat. The wet bulb globe temperature. And this is a metric that it takes into account more than just the air temperature and the humidity. That's the heat index. This takes into account air temperature, air temperature, humidity, sun angle. In the summer, we have a higher sun angle than the winter. So it takes that into account. Wind, cloud coverage. It takes a lot more metrics into account to come up with a value. And there's these categorical words to describe the impact on people, right? How it's going to affect people. So I don't like on this, temperature, the wet bulb globe temperature, I do not like the numbers that are associated with the descriptors. So if you look under it, anything over 90 is considered extreme. Well, you're saying, well, Alan, what do you mean? 90's nothing here, right? 90's like whatever. If we had 90 in the summer, we'd be celebrating. So I am not a fan of those numbers, but I am a fan of the impact associated with the number. So for example, today we were in the extreme category, and then the next 2 days, this coincides with our 100-degree weather impact alert reasoning. The Wednesday, Thursday forecast for the wet bulb globe temperature is to be in that extreme category in the afternoon. And then a little drop on Friday, which again jives with our forecast. So I think the categorical phrasing, the words low, elevated, moderate, high, extreme, those are great. I think there's going to be some communication issue with the way those numbers that are associated with those words are taken by the general public. So that's my take on it. It's a relatively new thing. And the takeaway is that this temperature kind of accounts for more than what's going on than just the air temperature and the humidity. So that's a newer thing that you'll probably start to see more frequently with more organizations using it to determine, heat stress and when it's not okay to be outside for long periods of time unchecked. So the 7-day forecast, here we are. We're finishing up almost 9:45. Weather impact alert days, Wednesday, Thursday, then back to the mid-90s for the weekend, closer to seasonal average. And then that upper level chunk of energy comes in early next week, and it may deliver us a little chance for rain. We're going to be on after the Democratic National Convention. That's on our, I'm sure it's on every affiliate right now, but we'll be on after that. We have to sit here and hang out with y'all. If you're waiting for the news, we don't go anywhere. We're here live in the studio, and we've got to make sure that we're here. So when they're finished up, we can do the news, right? Rudy's here. Leslie's not. It's Leslie's birthday, though, and Leslie got the night off. So happy birthday to her. So we'll see y'all when the DNC thing is. Rudy's happy. What's that, Rudy?
Still going.
Still going. Yeah, when it's over, we'll get on. But until then, we're going to hang out, and we'll be waiting to go on. So practice heat, safety, stay cool in the 100-degree days.